Nitai Gaura Hare 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 Gaura Hare Nitai Gaura Hare Hare Nitai Gaura Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada. Srila Sanatana Goswami Pad ki jai, Shri Madan Mohan ki jai, Shri Vrindavana Dham ki jai, Shri Nandagram ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande.
Hare Krishna everyone. So I've spreaded some mattresses. Mataji will sit there. So you align yourself according to that classroom setup. She will sit there. I'll just try to have some asana. In case if you need mattresses, let me know. We have multiple mattresses there. Where is actually great soul? Please align yourself according to that. कुछ और करना होगा चटाइयों को भी बैठ गया चटाई वहाँ से ले something. I don't know.
Would you like me to give you support your time in any shape or form?
No, that's okay. Just see how it goes.
Okay.
I'll
But
run out.
maybe after an hour, I tell you that it's an hour. Yeah?
Thank you. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Praskatya Desitarane Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda
Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So today we are all so fortunate because we have come to an extraordinarily auspicious place, actually. This is the place where Srila Sanatana Goswami would reside when he was staying in Nandagram. Now, Sanatana Goswami was, of course, the elder of all the Goswamis, and he too, like his younger brother, Rupa Goswami, he also wrote. He traveled around. Sometimes it is said that some of the paper that they would write on was actually manufactured from wood and leaves and then taken through a process with cloth to create actually a smooth surface to actually write on. And they used the dyes, natural dyes out of nature to create a kind of ink. And it's also said that sometimes visit Rupa Goswami, and sometimes he would go wandering from village to village. And it's said that he was so loved by the people of Braj. He was like a grandfather. He was interested in everything. He wasn't just interested in their Hare Krishna part of their lives. He was interested in every single thing, their crops, their family, their children, the marriages, the problems in the village. And he would come and stay in one village for, perhaps it was 2 days. And the people of the village would be waiting for him because I guess he had a routine. And when he was leaving, they'd come to the edge of the village crying because they didn't want to have him leave their association so quickly. And he was deeply, deeply loved by all the people all over Vrindavan. And it's also said that it was he who discovered the deities on the hill. Because if you know from the Chaitanya Chaitamrita, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came here and he went up on the hill and he saw in a cave there were some deities. And Sanatana Goswami established the worship of those deities. So, of course, that worship had been going on in Braj for a very long time. But Sanatana Goswami played some role in establishing the temple on the hill. So we're here, sitting here in front of him, and imperceptibly he's here with us, and that's amazing. It's amazing if you stop and think for a minute. You can't say that when you go to some kind of a place of some famous historic figure in the world, anywhere. Even you can't say that if you go to Delhi and you go to Gandhi's home. You're like, oh, okay, he was here. But he is here. This is the distinction. This is something extraordinary about a fully transcendental person. They don't die, as Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explained. He reasons ill who say that Vaishnavas die when they're still living in sound. So Srila Sanatana Goswami is here with us, and of course his deities were Radha, Madan, Mohan. So the deities that are established here are also Radha, Madan, Mohan. And behind you can visit the
Samadhi or Bhajan Kutir of Krishna Das Babaji Maharaj. And he was exceptional. He was most outstanding in the whole Gaudiya Mutt. Because as fate would have it, sometimes in organizations, we also see this in our own organization, there has to be some kind of order. And also then you get different individuals who want to do things in different ways. And then gradually, if they're not serious enough, they quarrel. And so one goes over here and says, I'll start my mutt. And another one over here, well, I can't get along with you, you're not doing things properly, I'll start my own mutt. And in the Gaudiya Mutt, there began to become many, many, many different mutts. And Krishna Das, Babaji Maharaj, used to go between them. And he was like Sanatana Goswami. He would sit there in each one and he'd hear everything. They'd say, you know them, they're doing this, 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 and this. And then the other one would say, and you know, and don't tell anyone, but we're doing this, 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 and this. And Babaji Maharaj would just go from one mutt to another and he would just tell them whatever was going on, what he saw. I saw this, they're doing this, they're doing that. And they began to think he's very political. Because he had no boundaries. He saw no boundaries. And when he finally came to live in Vrindavan, he would travel around and just chant and chant and chant. Like 24 hours sometimes he would be chanting. Like the Sad Goswamis themselves. And he was very, very dear to Srila Prabhupada. And there's a story, and I can't remember what was the ceremony, others may recall. Something was happening and Srila Prabhupada was chanting and he was being told to stop chanting. His sannyas, yes. Because there was a ritual taking place and Srila Prabhupada is just naturally chanting, chanting, chanting. And Krishna Das Babaji was sitting in front and behind his back he was going, keep chanting, keep chanting. He was urging Srila Prabhupada, just keep chanting. And he loved Srila Prabhupada so dearly because Srila Prabhupada had absolute faith in the holy names. Otherwise, how could he come out of India? How could he go to America where there was no culture? No Vedic culture, not even any Hindu culture. There were no Indians living in India, hardly in America at that time, hardly at all. So he wasn't going, now we travel from one part of the world to another and we meet up with an Indian community, basically Indian-based community who already have a culture, they're already doing things, and we enliven them as best that we can in their practice. But he was going to nothing. And Srila Krishnadas Babaji was very much enthusiastic and very happy to see him when he came back with his first disciples who were, as Prabhupada one time said, Krishna didn't give me any first-class men. In other words, most of them were young hippies, perhaps not working in the world, not doing anything productive, taking drugs, self-centered, thinking about themselves and their lives and how they could be happy. And Srila Prabhupada had a mission, and he was employing their energy in his mission, although many times they would stay for a little while and then they would feel, oh, this is too hard, this is not what I want in my life, and they would fade away, and Prabhupada would keep going. A little bit like we were hearing about Yasodamai. So I chose to come here today. This has to be quite a short visit because when I told my husband that we were coming here, he was a little concerned because it's 1 hour here, 1 hour back, and he didn't want us to exert all our energy and to return back to the retreat center kind of like, Oh, he didn't want that. He wanted us to get enlivened while we were here and go back there ready for, to be honest, ready for some good, solid, personal, hard work. Because I think most people who are here have come eager for some spiritual hard work. I want to change. I want to grow. I want to become a more serious and more focused devotee. I haven't come here just to have a sun bath out on the grass or to just sit by Giriraj and take some photos. I've come here with a very serious intention, a personally serious intention. And so he was explaining to me that the Govardhana retreat has been organized for people who want that. And he wants this afternoon session to be deep. So he said, bring them all back ready. So we'll stay here for about an hour and a half. We'll go down and put some water on our heads from Pavana Sarovara, and then we'll hop back in the bus or the cars and we'll return to the retreat center. Now, this morning, when I was doing something, I found a really interesting quote. I found that it made me think. And I always like things that make me think, because if I don't have them, I don't think very much. So let me share this with you. I called it a very important practical lesson. Please listen. If I am always aware that everything that is happening is Krishna's Leela, happening to us, or Krishna's arrangement, even when I am separated from him and ignorant of his presence. That sounds good, right? To be thinking all the time everything that's happening is Krishna's Leela, his arrangement, and he's taking care of everything. So the quote says, if I'm always aware that everything that is happening is his Leela or his arrangement, and even when I'm separated from him or ignorant of his presence, it's still his arrangement, then I cease to take things critically seriously. And that's where I stopped, because I was thinking, it was going to say, if you think everything's Krishna's arrangement, then you're on the right track. But the author is saying, no, if you just think, it's Krishna's mercy, that's Krishna's mercy, that's Krishna's mercy, I cease to take things critically seriously. I have to take it seriously in all respects. Until I have realized the non-seriousness. Now I'll explain this to you after, I'll just read it to you first. Until I have realized the non-seriousness, or even the Leela involved. And then, when I do, I become quite quiet, the observer. Now let me explain this a little to you as I understood it. If I'm always aware that everything that is happening is his arrangement, his Leela, even when I'm separated from him or ignorant of his presence, then I cease to take things critically seriously. So I thought about this, and I thought of things such as when you say, oh, it's all in his hands. You know, it's Krishna's mercy. Everything's up to him. He's in control. I'll be okay. Nothing to fear. Krishna will take care of me. Anyway, it's his responsibility. And it will always work out. It always works out. It always does. So it's Krishna's mercy, Prabhu. It's not a problem. And it's not exactly my fault, it's Krishna's arrangement. So what does that produce? Complacency. Any other words? Indifference. Irresponsibility. Apathy. Laziness. Interesting, huh? I'm thinking it's Krishna's mercy, and it produces these negative results. So this is a warning for us as practitioners, how to proceed properly. So then, the injunction is to you and I have to take it seriously in all its aspects. That means everything in my life, I have to take it seriously in all its aspects. So I wrote down, I need to recognize how urgent it is that if I'm not aligning myself with Krishna as far as I can, I need to recognize it as a fault and not think, oh well, that's the best I can do. I need to understand the reality of death and rebirth in another womb. And I need to understand that devotees are not exempt from suffering. They're not exempt from rebirth. We're not all going back to Godhead. It's not that when a devotee dies, they go back to Godhead. It's not guaranteed. It's scientific. It depends what they were thinking and what they were wanting deep in their heart at the moment. Srila Prabhupada tells us this. But if we think, oh, it's Krishna's mercy, Krishna will take care, we don't become critically urgent. So I need to see that my next life is in my hands. And I can become, even as a devotee, I can become a dog or a tree. I can become anything. I'm not a selected group who are exempt. It's a very sobering reality. So first we're asked, don't think that it's all Krishna's mercy in a casual way. Second, we're asked, take it very seriously. It's your life. It's your life in your hands. And then the next point, and this is where it gets interesting. Until you take it very seriously, until I have realized the non-seriousness, this is very subtle, or even the leela involved. So what this means is, until I'm taking it seriously, and then I realize, oh, actually, it's not that serious. Krishna is there. I realize now his presence when I'm already taking it seriously. So I asked, how often do we see after an event that terrifies us, how Krishna was there? And how by seeing Krishna was there in a most seemingly horrible situation gives me so much courage to see that Krishna's there in a moment-to-moment way. How often does our faith grow when we recognize that Krishna's involved? And how often do we see a thread of arrangement, even when we feel as if we are being persecuted? So you can think, who do we know who was very persecuted? Haridas Thakur. Who do we know historically who was even more persecuted? Prahlad Maharaj. Who even more persecuted in our times? Not in our line. Jesus Christ. Because Prahlad Maharaj, Haridas Thakur, they kept their lives, but he forfeited his life. And how many years is it that he's, even in a distorted form, he's famous all over the world? How many years? Thousands of years. So he saw an arrangement in the persecution. Now we don't want to be persecuted, obviously. We're not expecting to be persecuted. But when it comes a time for death, in a sense, most of us are going to feel as if this is a persecution. So what this devotee is saying is, until I've realized the non-seriousness, that means I've seen Krishna's mercy in this, even I'm seeing it now as Krishna's highest arrangement. When I come to that point, he says, then, when you come to that point, then you will become quiet, quite quiet. You'll become an observer of what is taking place. And so this is what we require to become, an observer of Krishna's great mercy. But it's done in this way. It's not simple, oh, it's Krishna's mercy. No, we have to take it very, very seriously. And then we will see that we are deeply protected by Krishna's mercy. Even, and there won't be, even in circumstances of persecution. Many times I know younger devotees come to me and they want to know why it is that a devotee might suffer in some way that we would never want to suffer. Why they may get some terrible illness or some paralyzing circumstance. And great devotees, that means devotees like on the level of Kinchana Krishnadas Babaji, they don't see that way. They don't see, oh, why is this happening to me? They see whatever Krishna wants is all right. So our challenge is, how can I get to that stage? Not everyone, me. How can I get to that stage? Does anyone have any thoughts about this? Anything that comes to their mind in hearing this, or anything they would like to share? Yes.
I have heard a statement that bhakti is very intentional and it's not automatic.
Yes.
Every moment we need to choose.
Yes, yes, yes. Intentional. Very good word. Intentional. And so when we find ourselves kind of bored, or we find ourselves kind of dull, we should know that, oh, I'm not intentional right now. I'm just drifting along with the effects of the circumstances. And if I return to that intentional purposefulness, then things become clarified. Yeah, thank you. Anything else? Thank you. Yes.
Maharaj, as you said that the devotees see something else when we see the problem. So I was just thinking that, as Shashinanda Maharaj said, that happiness is an inside job.
Yes.
So we can choose to be happy in any situation. So yeah, as you said, we need to change our intention.
Yes. We need to be able to see that I'm responsible for my happiness. Of course, not everyone, every time, every moment can be happy. I think life would be boring if everyone was only happy, right? So that even when you see the pastimes of Krishna, you see Mother Yasoda, she's in this mood and that mood and so on. There's a lot of variance of emotion, but the base is always the same. It's a blissfulness. And that's the nature of ourselves. So when we choose to be happy, we choose to be ourselves, rather than manufacturing a kind of a concept of what would make us happy. It's innate within us. Yes. Trinadapi Sunichina. Yes.
One of the most important stages to come further in this progress. Without that, it's not.
What do you want to say about Trinadapi Sunichina?
That I say that what you asked, you cannot make any progress without that. It's not going to. You can to a certain state, but if you don't adopt this state of consciousness, you will stay always like in the Kanishta level, always in the beginning.
So what you're saying is that if we don't make progress in understanding our own humility, humble position, we remain in the beginning phase, which is not making full progress. Yeah. Thank you. Anything else? Yeah.
We may not go back to Godhead. We need to take responsibility of ourselves.
Yes. I hear so many people, new people saying, oh, somebody passed away, they went back to Godhead. And I think, I used to hear people saying, oh, they went to heaven, they went to heaven, they went to heaven. And I had an uncle who was a very bad man, actually. He did some terrible things that nobody knew about until after he'd long gone. Terrible things. And but I remember being in the church, had to go to the church to hear his funeral, and the minister was trying to find something good to say about him because he'd gone and implying that he'd gone to heaven. Automatic, you go to heaven. You're a Christian, you go to heaven. You're a Hare Krishna, you go back to Godhead. So we don't want to fall into that kind of simplistic childishness, because it's very frightening at the time of death if you've just assumed and then all of a sudden you find that this is much more intense and concentrated and difficult than I was anticipating. I was thinking it was easy. Of course, anyone thoughtful will understand it's not necessarily going to be easy. But then when you become the quiet observer, when you've reached to that point, then the interesting thing is that it's quite natural to go back to Godhead. From this perspective, not from this perspective, but from this higher perspective, it's totally natural. It's totally unnatural for us to keep remaining here. It's so incredibly uncomfortable to have a body. Even if you're young and fit and look in the mirror and you feel like, wow, I'm on top of the world, still you have so many little things come along. As Prabhupada says, every moment there's one of those three causes of suffering taking place. Either the weather is too hot or cold, or my back is aching, or the flies are bothering me, or somebody next to me said something that hurt my feelings, on and on and on and on. So it's actually quite unnatural to be here. Except to be here, where we are now, is not unnatural at all, but this is Nandagram. And Nandagram is kind of like the heart of Braj, not the heart. It's like the intelligence, the central point. Who knows who where the heart of Braj is? Vaishana. Vaishana is the heart. But Nandagram is the headquarters. It's the place where it all happens. It's the place of Nanda Baba. Another reason we came here, one was because it's a wonderful place to come, but another one was because I wanted to keep, as far as possible, this consistency of mood from what we're hearing in the evenings. So if we were to go to Radhakund or we were to go to another place, we would step into another mood, another rasa would become pronounced, and that wouldn't enhance the mood of what we're trying to taste at the present time, which is Krishna's incredible, loving naughtiness. And we have with us, we're so fortunate, we have with us our little 5-year-old who's quiet right now. Where is he? There he is. Hare Krishna. He's 3 years. Look at that. That's how old Krishna was at that time. He was 3 years. Look at that. Look at this, feeding butter to the monkeys, right? Crying, covered in ghee. Yes, see, answering back. Don't hit me with a stick. Running like anything, and his mother chasing him. And he's running where he thinks there'll be people, so that they'll go, what? Stop! Don't hit him. So small. Krishna was so small. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that there is a purpose to being in this world. It's a very important point. He says, you can get it's been designed by Krishna himself so that this world is a reference point for that world. So we see a small child and we think, oh, Krishna was a small child. Or we see something here, a big tree, and we say, oh, a big tree. We can see the elements here in a shadowed form of what is being described to us on that spiritual platform. So this is also why, of course, when we come here to Nandagram, we come to catch a little bit of that transcendental element as well, which is that this is Nanda Maharaj's place. We're on the top of Nandeshwar Hill. Lord Shiva's Ashishwar Mahadev Mandir across the road, Vrindakund over this way, Lord Nrsingadev Mandir that way, Yasoda's churning pot, huge pot, sunk into the ground across there. Yasoda Kund is over there where she bathed. Pavana Sarovara is here where Nanda Maharaj would bathe. Radharani would cook on the bank of Pavana Sarovara. Krishna would make all kinds of arrangements so that he could bring the cows there and milk the cows. And the young girls from Javat would make all sorts of arrangements so they could see him milking the cows. And when we hear the Leela in the place, which is the place where when Krishna's Leela appears in this world, this is where it connects, you could say. So when we hear the Leela in this atmosphere, it's so much more potent even than hearing it in New York City or Australia or anywhere else. So we're blessed at this time to come here and sit here and just take in a little bit of this Nandagram atmosphere. Now, in preparation for coming here, I wasn't able to find directly a Nandagram Leela that linked us together. However, I found from Ananda Vrindavan Champu what took place after the stealing butter Leela. So after that, we're in Gokul, way this way, past. If we were to go that southeast, we would come to Mathura. And across from Mathura, across the Jamuna, that's where Gokul is. And so what was happening was that, of course, Kamsa was sending people. And it was easy because the Gokul was very close. But it was happening too often. There'd be some kind of disturbance. We heard about Putana, the first one, and how she was so mysterious that the gopis let her in. They let her come right into the room where the baby was. And the baby is so small. And pick up the child like a nurse and start to feed the child. And they had no power to see. This is a sinister person, a dangerous person. So that was the first upset. And Nanda was in Mathura when he was coming back, and he had a feeling that something's not quite right. And Vasudeva had warned him, because of course Vasudeva knew everything. So Vasudeva had said, take special care of your son. Be very careful of him. And so he came back and he saw this was happening. And then this monstrous body, which is inconceivable to us in size. We can't imagine a body that's 8 kilometers long. If you think of 8 kilometers, that's from here to there. No, I can't imagine that. And how do they see Krishna up the top? And so our analytical brain will come in and start having its own questions. But when they burnt the body, they dried and it cut in pieces and burnt the body. It was fragrant, like incredible fragrant incense, because Krishna had touched her and transformed her consciousness. But that wasn't a very pleasant experience. And then we heard Shakatasura came in an invisible body, thinking that this other Putana, she was visible and they captured her. I will just come and I'll be imperceivable, and I'll just let that cart fall on the child and kill the child. And Krishna just touching the side of the cart like you would touch something. And it doesn't move. But the cart flew right up in the air and landed, smashing down. So there's another unusual incident. And the cowherd men all came and they did what they could to set the cart right and so on. But again, they were feeling, this isn't so auspicious. And then, who was next? Trinavarta. So Trinavarta, came in the form of a whirlwind. So they didn't see a personality involved. But how did Krishna become so heavy? And where did he go? Because he went up in the air and they fainted and then they brought him back. So what's happening here? One thing after another. And so after this playful experience that we're hearing about at night with Krishna, after that, at a certain point, the senior men got together. So let me read to you. One day, Krishna personally entered the hearts of the village leaders and inspired them. Upananda, Sananda, these are Nanda Maharaj's older brothers, and the other senior men convened a town meeting to discuss their future. With warm hearts, the people spoke to Vrajaraj Nanda. They said, O King of Nanda, O King of Vraj, we cannot understand the extent of your opulences. We have never seen a more fortunate person than you. You are so great. Your son delivers everybody from distress and lamentation. Since the time of his appearance amongst us, many sad or seemingly painful things have happened here in Gokul. And then they accounted, just as we were hearing about Putana, then about the hurricane demon. And they said, we want to know the cause of all these strange incidences. Everyone experienced good fortune with Krishna's birth. And we personally know your family dynasty is completely auspicious. So, by the accumulation of your good deeds, a plenary expansion of the Lord, trying to glorify Krishna as being great, has appeared as your very son. We can only guess, therefore, that it is this place which is the cause of difficulties, and not your illustrious son. Because sometimes somebody comes into this world with some very bad karma, and things happen to them one after another, and they're saying, it's not your son, he's not like that. It must have something to do with this place. Considering this, we have concluded that the next year from now, we should leave this place and move to the forest of
Vrindavan.
Yes, to forest of Vrindavan. Vrindavan is full of good qualities and always pleasing all through the seasons of the year. The goddess of fortune eternally resides there personally, serving all the residents. And Govardhana Hill, which always increases the health of the cows, also stands there. So, if you approve this proposal, then please satisfy us by taking us to Vrindavan. So this was going to be their first stop, and it's wonderful to hear of their journey from Gokul to Vrindavan. And after Vrindavan, Krishna stayed, his family stayed at Chatikara. And when Krishna is leaving Gokul, what do you think Vrishabhanu Maharaj was going to do? I think he was leaving as well. So he left Raval, and then he came to a place, I think it's called Ral. It's on the way between, does anyone know that place where he came? It's between Radhakund and Govardhana, yes. Ral? Yes, yes. So he stayed there. They stayed there for some time. For some time they stayed in Kamyavan, because that was Yasoda's family place. And they stayed different places. But they were making their way to Nandagram, to this wonderful place here. Because this is where they came from to begin with. They came from here, they went to Gokul, and they made their way gently back to Nandagram. And Nandagram is actually Krishna's eternal residence. He doesn't ever actually leave. Krishna's very mysterious. He leaves and doesn't leave at the same time. So, then, Nanda Maharaj, whose consciousness is totally pure, replied to the Gopas, and he said, you should understand that I am personally very attached to this Mahavan, Gokul. But if you find defects here, then for your sake, I think we should give up this place and immediately move to Vrindavan. And this excited everybody. They became very, very excited. And they started to prepare for this big journey, because they were all living in Gokul. And anyone in today's day and age knows how hard it is just to move house. From one house to another, it's so tedious. What to speak of moving everybody and every single thing, and all the cows and all the baby calves and everything. So please hear, there's a beautiful visual description of this. The groups of carts were fully loaded with village folk and their paraphernalia, and they looked very beautiful. Then, keeping the cows in the front, they lined up the carts in preparation to leave. As a mature bull elephant, now we've only seen pictures of this, but a bull elephant can have 4 tusks. 1, 2, 3, 4. As a mature bull elephant can have 4 tusks, the bullocks had different numbers of teeth depending on their ages. The youngest bullocks had 4 teeth, whereas the older bullocks had up to 9 teeth. And all the bullocks were decorated with gold-plated horns, shining and sparkling like the peaks of Mount Sumeru. The rounded and nicely shaped jawbones of the bullocks were very attractive. As a music teacher dances with many steps, the bullocks moved very gracefully on their splendid hooves. As there are 4 parts to a poem, similarly these bullocks had 4 legs. And Nanda Maharaj had 900,000 white cows in his herd. 900,000. They were moving them all to Vrindavan. Can you imagine? The restless nature of the bullocks indicated the depth of their intelligence. Although yoked to the carts, they were not tied through their noses. Attractive necklaces of sweet-sounding bells hung from all their necks. Multicolored canopies topped the carts, and these canopies had many designs and colors like brick red, green, yellow, white, red and pale yellow. And colorful curtains made of costly jute covered the sides of the carts, and flags fluttered above the golden domes on top of these carts. So can you imagine these carts? They're carts, bullock carts, but they have gold domes on the top, and flags flying from the gold domes, and cloth on the sides to cover so that the ladies will not be seen. And in these canopied carts, unlimited gopis and their families are moving towards Vrindavan. The flags look like wonderfully designed tongues extending to taste the rays of the sun. These splendidly decorated carts mocked the flower aeroplanes of the demigods. Indeed, these bullock carts established a new standard of excellence amongst conveyances. Just as there is no fault in being attached to sadhus, these carts were faultless in their construction and beautiful to behold. As devotees become beautiful by engaging in Krishna's service, the chakras above the carts looked as beautiful as chakravaka birds floating in a lake. As the sons of Kuvera are attached to residing in his capital city of Alakapuri, similarly the wooden yokes were attached to the carts. The carts held many gorgeous pots made of gold and silver, brass, bell metal and copper. And now they're starting off, extending from Mahavan all the way from where they're leaving, all the way to the Jamuna River. A long line of cows and bullocks, 900,000 cows, looked like a separate branch of the Jamuna River. From a distance, it appeared that this long line of moving cows was standing still. The people thought, perhaps the Ganga has appeared here to speak privately to the Jamuna. Or maybe the unlimited waves of the milk ocean have come here to take the dust of Vrindavan. Or has Ananta Shesh renounced his service of Narayan's bed and come to see Vrindavan? Or could we be seeing the expanded hoods of the king of snakes? Who is the king of snakes? Vasuki. Perhaps we're seeing his hoods expanded. Or is this a necklace of pearls decorating Mother Earth? So there's a long line of cows that are pooling just at the bank of the river Jamuna. And there's a long line of carts topped with glittering golden domes, multicolored flags flapping in the wind, looking like a vast wall containing many tall golden doors surrounding a city palace. They looked like a small mountain range appearing as the offspring of Mount Kailash or Mount Sumeru, or the Himalayas who had come to play with the Jamuna. And the furrows, now you can picture these carts going and going and going. They're creating ruts or furrows in the ground. So this poet who writes this, Kavi Karnapur, he sees this, he can see it, we can hear it, he can see it. So he describes that the furrows left in the earth by the wheels of the carts looked like the walls of a castle rising in the air but having no support. And one time, Mother Bhumi took the form of a cow to beg Krishna to remove the distress she felt from the demoniac kings. And now it seemed as if the Mother Earth had again appeared in her original form as a cloud of dust rising above all of these carts. So many cowherd men simultaneously shouted orders to different people. You can just imagine. So many people and shouting and talking and laughing and singing, and the color and the movement and the excitement. And all these words merged into a mass of indiscernible noise, except with hand gestures. It was impossible to communicate amidst all the clamor. The combined vibration of the carts, the people, the drums, and the bellowing of the cows silenced all other sounds. And at last, all these sounds merged quietly within the ethereal element. And learned men proclaim that that sound is the byproduct of ether. So Yasoda and Rohini were seated on one cart, which was made very beautiful, and they looked like two jewels sitting on the cart. And they had with them, each one had one of their beautiful children sitting on their knee. Their sons shone as the embodiments of benediction for the three worlds. So they laughed and talked, and they were very happy as they're moving along in the carts. And there were many armed sentinels to make sure that everybody was safe. And when they actually arrived at the bank of the Jamuna, it was too late in the day to cross the Jamuna that night. Now, if you're thinking, for example, okay, we're doing a yatra, we could do this, we could do that, so on and so forth, you'll see that their unlimitedness far outdoes anything that we could actually imagine. They made their camp at the base, beside the Jamuna, and immediately a splendid city arose made of tents. A kaleidoscope of colorful tent canopies covered the 10 directions. 10 directions means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So many tents were there. The cowherd men expertly erected walls made of cloth to surround this temporary city of tents. And just there, because they were there overnight, we would maybe not unpack our bags because we're only there overnight. But as in an ordinary city, they made 4 pathways, one this way and this way, 4, bisecting the 4 directions. They also established footpaths and marketplaces to facilitate the residents. This is Vraj. And now, what about all those cows? Unlimited number of cows. While sitting under the evening sky, they were chewing their cud, and the cows looked like a collection of moon rays, or a small lake of milk. And as more and more cows, they slowly come and they sit down, and cows are so peaceful, and an unlimited number of cows practically, all coming. As more and more cows sat amongst them, that lake expanded and expanded and expanded until it looked like an ocean of milk. And all the respected relatives, they met and conversed with Nanda in his tent, and then they all went to their own tents. They unloaded everything from the carts, they unyoked the bulls, they fed them, put them to rest, and then they busied themselves buying and selling things, different products, while the kitchen helpers cleaned and prepared for cooking. It's extraordinary. It sounds like what we do, but we do it on this little tiny level. And we think it's a hard job. But Krishna's unlimited. So, after spending 12 hours moving across the sky, the weary sun god happily met his wife in the form of the westerly direction. The birds chirped excitedly and soared through the sky before securing their nests for the night, and the peacocks flew up into perches in the treetops, and the deers who had been walking along with them lazily found somewhere to sleep by the Jamuna. And then they had their evening, and then they woke in the morning. And after they had taken care of all their morning duties, now it was time to cross the Jamuna. Satisfied by eating their fill and seeing their calves standing nearby, the cows stood peacefully while the men milked them. So then they took their evening meal. 3 hours before sunrise, the ladies woke up. They bathed, dressed in clean cloth, did their Vastu Puja, and then they churned butter. This is only overnight. It's inconceivable. That's why we have to hear, because we have to develop a taste. We have to see beyond the magnitude of this world. The things we think are amazing in this world are like insignificant compared to that world. And that world is calling us home. Where are you? What are you doing? You're acting like a little 5-year-old. Come home, come home. So they did all their morning activities, and then they all prepared to cross the river. And Nanda Maharaj gave the order, and he called all the cows, and all cows came, and they mooed in response, and then all the cows went straight into the water, and they started to swim across the Jamuna. As they swam across the Jamuna, the cows exhaled strong breaths of air. You know, cows and they sort of snort as they're going. The heavy water-soaked tails of the cows hung motionless just under the water, and keeping their heads and humps above the water, they flowed with the currents and finally reached the opposite shore. The hornless, light-bodied little calves, hornless ones, they felt great happiness as they jumped in the water and swam across the river. Crossing from all directions in front of their mothers, the calves reached the opposite shore. And the Gopa men carried the newborn calves, the baby calves, by holding them like this, their 2 forelegs. A little local color is always important. Radhe Radhe Ma. Jai Shri Radhe. The hornless, light-bodied calves felt great happiness as they quickly swam across the river, and the others were carried, the newborn calves, across the river by hanging them around the men's necks and holding their soft legs with their left arm and using their right arm to swim. And the mothers of those calves followed behind, crying anxiously. Bulls, now the bulls are going to come across. The tall humps on the back of the mature bulls made waves as they moved across the Jamuna. And as if in an angry mood, you have seen these bulls sometimes on the side of the street. We saw the other day, we're driving along and the bull walks right across in front. Just stop, because the bull is crossing and you stop. And the bull knows, you stop, I'm walking across. So these bulls are so strong. And as if in an angry mood, the bulls turned their necks and butted the successive waves with their horns. And a captivating scene manifests there. Despite the strong current, the bulls held their heads high and straight, breathing heavily, and they quickly crossed the Jamuna. So all the innumerable cows made it safely across, all the bulls made it safely across, everybody, all the animals made it across, and they all stood on the bank on the other side, looking, where's Krishna? And they looked like camphor dust, white, so beautiful. And then, how did the people get across? They had boats, and the boats were made of gold. And the boats, they all got into boats, and they took the carts across in the boats, and the people across in the boats. And they looked so beautiful. Many highly decorated boats made of gold exhibited the epitome of artistic craftsmanship as they cruised along the Jamuna. Now, who today, even a wealthy man who has a yacht and travels here and there in his yacht with all his wealthy friends, who has a boat made of gold? I've not heard of it, but this is just ordinary so-called ordinary cowherd men. So Krishna also, he gets into the boat with his mother and his father and Rohini and Balaram, and what does he do? He's a little boy. He leans over the edge of the boat. While supporting himself with his left hand, he stretches his right hand under the water to touch the bottom of the boat. Right? Yes? Good idea. Touch the bottom of the boat. Anticipating some danger, the two mothers try unsuccessfully to stop him from his frivolous play. Keeps doing it. With great concern, therefore, Nanda boarded the same boat, and he quickly picked up Krishna and placed him on his lap. And then, undisturbed, the boatman continued rowing steadily across the Jamuna. And then all the remaining people also crossed in boats, and they were ferried across. And when everyone had crossed the river to the other side, then Nanda Baba was satisfied, and he rewarded all the boatmen with valuables, jewels, and clothes, and so on. And now, Krishna and Balaram were in Vrindavan. Now they were in Vrindavan. Now they were in Vrindavan. Just think about that. Now they were in Vrindavan. They had been in Gokul. And in Gokul, Krishna was playful and naughty, and he stole butter, and he did so many things. But now they were in Vrindavan. And Krishna would take care of the calves, and then after some time, he will ask his mother if he can take care of the cows. But that time they had arrived in Nandagram. Even in Nandagram, Krishna was taking care of the calves. And when he was taking care of them, Yasoda Mai didn't like this. He's too naughty. The animals are so big. And so she insisted that he could only go as far as she could hear his flute, which wasn't very far. But gradually, as he grew, and this is the mystery of Krishna's Leela, Nara Leela, that he grows up. He goes through all the stages of growth that we see here in this world. He's not like a deity who stands there on the altar, static, ecstatic of course, but static. Doesn't move, and he doesn't change his form, because we're worshipping him in this way. But Krishna in Nandagram, he's running, he's falling, he's chasing the cows, the calves, he's getting himself all dirty and dusty, and his mother's bathing him. He's taking off the ornaments that she's putting on, because she says, how can a child not have ornaments of gold? What child doesn't have gold jewelry all over their body? And for us, what child could even imagine having gold jewelry all over their body? Plastic maybe, but maybe not needed, because we're very minimalistic in our modern Kali Yuga way. But here is Krishna and his Leela, and hearing it, it actually makes an impression on your heart, whether you remember it or not. And this is really important to understand. It makes an impression whether you remember it or not. I came here many, many years ago, well over 20, 25 years ago. And I remember, I don't think this temple, this hall wasn't here, but Krishnadas Babaji's Samadhi was there, and there was a small temple here. But I still remember it. Mostly I forget it because it's not relevant to what I'm doing. But as soon as I come back, I go, oh, I've been here before. So this is the value of coming to these places and hearing and building up these sanskars, these impressions, so that one day, if we're very fortunate, these places will seem more relevant to us than the big cities of this world. Then the world outside will seem like it's really annoying. We have to put up with it, rather than it's amazing, and this is kind of a treat if we have time. So we want to transpose like that. We want that shift to come into being in our consciousness. So thank you for listening so patiently. It's 11:15. Perhaps we have half an hour or a little more, let's say half an hour, for going down here. We have to make our way around, I think, back this way, and taking some of the water of Pavana Sarovara on our heads, at least. Those who are very, very faithful can place 3 drops in their mouth, but others can place the water on your head, because it is said that this water, you know, we say, Patita Pavan Hetu Tava Avatar, when we speak about Sri Chaitanya, that the his cause is he's Patita Pavan. He's the savior or the purifier of the Patita, of those who are really, really low. So when we come here, we should feel ourselves to be really, really low. And we want Pavana Sarovara to purify our hearts, to purify our consciousness. So take the water, even if you believe it or don't believe it or understand it or don't understand it, don't worry. Just take the water and place it on your head so that Nandagram and the dust of Vrindavan can do its work on our hearts. Okay, so now we should make our way there. Perhaps we should have some kirtan. Who's going to lead that? Yeah? Do we have a madanga?
Say what time we will be going onto the bus.
We want to be on the bus at 12 o'clock. So I'm saying we want to be on the bus at 11:45.
The bus is leaving at 12.
Pavana Sarovara, I don't know so much about Pavana Sarovara, to be honest. There's not a lot of information, except that Yasoda Devi would bathe here. And there is one story that one time Nanda Maharaj was thinking to go, because you see, we've heard already how the residents of Vrindavan always thought themselves ordinary people, right? They thought that they're just ordinary cowherd men. So one time Nanda Maharaj was thinking of going to Prayag, because everyone knows that you go to Prayag and you release all your sinful reactions in Prayag and you get purified, and he was going to come back. And he went down to Pavana Sarovara first, just to take his bath before leaving. And he saw this big, large man coming. He was dressed very fancy. He had a mustache. He was looking very important. And he asked the gentleman, "Who are you?" And he said, "I'm Prayagraj." I'm his personification of Prayag. He said, "I come here because everybody comes to me to drop off all their sinful reactions. So I come here to Pavana Sarovara to take my bath here to become purified." So then Nanda Maharaj thought of it and thought, maybe I should not go to Prayag after all. So Pavana Sarovara is a very special place. There are many temples and places around Pavana Sarovara, but as I mentioned, it's been a very, very long time since I've had the good fortune to come here. So I think that's probably all I can share with you. But at least take this opportunity to get some pavan, some purification from the sacred waters here. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Anything else? Any other points? Anything before we leave? No? Okay. Let's organize our departure. And also, please, would everyone kindly make a substantial, a nice donation here? Like not 5 rupees or 10 rupees. That doesn't mean anything anymore. That's like 1 rupee. Because this is a genuine place of Gaudiya, our Gaudiya Vaishnavism and our Gaudiya family, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Thank you.